What's up, everybody? Well, today I'm here to bring to you another vacuum that's in my vacuum collection. This time it is another Hoover Elite. I'm sure many of you viewers probably know by now, longtime subscribers at least, but for those of you who are just tuning in and recently subscribed, or for those of you who keep watching my videos without checking source material, you know who you are. Well, probably should know by now that I am a huge fan of Hoover Elites. They're probably my most favorite vacuum ever, and I always like to snatch one up whenever a good-looking one comes across my path. Case in point, with this guy here. Here I present to you a Hoover Soft and Light Supreme. I actually bought this vacuum on eBay for surprisingly cheap, and it is, as you see it, a soft bag Hoover Elite that happens to be lightweight, has a tool set, and was made around the time when the Hoover Elites were, and I hate to admit this, slowly but surely starting to lose their relevancy in favor of the newer, more high-end wind tunnel that was out, which was Hoover's re-entrance back into the clean air vacuum market. And these old direct airs, while they were still in production, like I said, were slowly starting to lose their relevancy at the time in the vacuum industry as more people were gravitating towards better suction and later bagless technology that would eventually plague and borderline give a lot of the today's consumers amnesia to what a perfectly good vacuum is. And this is one of these examples of a last good, decent vacuum that was sold in the major department stores and big box stores. However, this is another one of those examples of Hoover taking a name, lazily slapping it on an elite cleaner and just putting it into production. While although these were not becoming as popular as they were back in the mid to early 90s, they were surprisingly sold pretty cheap in their time, especially this model. It wasn't as feature-rich as some of its higher-end models were, but it was still a pretty good cleaner for what it was. And so let's go ahead and give a walkthrough of the cleaner right here. This one, as you just has your standard handle grip right here. The thing I do like about this is this little label right here. Remember, check filter bag. Some things that not too many consumers will think about doing because a lot of them are used to using bagless vacuums these days. And they wonder why their cleaner doesn't have any more suction or airflow, which, by the way, yeah, I'm going ahead and get a little bit of discussion that later, but not right now. Here is your Hoover Soft and Light Supreme lettering on the front with triple filtration, which honestly this doesn't really have triple filtration. If anything, the outer bag does serve as a filter, which is the thing for a lot of these soft bag elites, but usually what gave them the triple filtration was the double filtration in the genuine bags, which were usually just allergen filtration. This one now lives up to its name because I am running a generic HEPA cloth type A bag, which definitely increases filtration and also maintains suction and airflow quite a bit compared to even the original paper bags at the time. Which a lot of people may not know this, but you think suction, the best suction, will give you the best performing vacuum. Well, that is where you're wrong. Suction is defined by the vacuum experts as the third most important thing for a good performing vacuum. Key word, third. The other things that come into play are agitation and airflow. Agitation basically is the thing that the brush roll generates and where it beats and sweeps the carpet as it's cleaning. So basically, agitation definitely helps beat the dirt out of the carpet so the vacuum can pick it up. Airflow is basically how the vacuum channels that suction through the actual cleaner. And how efficiently does it do it? So, since this vacuum has a motor that's called a direct air motor versus the clean air or bypass motors that they sell today, the direct air motors actually direct all their suction towards the head of the cleaner, and all the dirt will pass through a fan, which then goes through that fan and then blows into the bag. That's why you notice when these things turn on, these bags inflate. That's because the fan's blowing the dirt in there. So the only downfall with direct air vacuums is there's not really much filtration. So the only thing you have as a post-motor filter is this giant outer bag, which will definitely cake up with dust if you use low filtration bags. But you will get that excellent carpet cleaning performance because it generates so much airflow. Unfortunately, not as good of suction, so it's not good for using tools, very much so, compared to a clean air or bypass vacuum. But they do have their pros and cons. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on right here, now that I've given you the anatomy lessons on why direct air is superior in some ways compared to clean air and bypass, and how they're slowly becoming more popular, the bypass and clean air vacuums. So now let's go ahead and continue on with features. You have your 4-position carpet height adjustment settings on the front here. I always like to leave it in the middle for the pile of this carpet. A little bit different Hoover lettering on the hood here are part of these soft and light models. You have still your Hoover symbol right here and right up there. It also does say brushed edge cleaning right in the middle, and does have arrows pointing to either side. The original design would have the brushed edge cleaning over here and another brushed edge cleaning right over here. So a little bit different of a design compared to what Hoover originally had on these Elites back then. But here you do have your cleaning effectiveness per amp right here. This was Hoover's famous marketing technique back then to make high-end models look pretty on the shelves while giving higher price tags. This one is rated at 15, which honestly there is no kind of metric to that. That's just a marketing technique. And it uses only 7 amps. Another thing that is misleading to people when they think of a good-looking, good performing vacuum, they think 12 amps, the thing is automatically powerful. Well, not entirely true. Yes, a lot of today's modern vacuums have 12 amps, and they are pretty powerful, but like I said, agitation, airflow, and good suction are the things that make good performing vacuums. So things like, say, something that has 7 amps of power doesn't draw as much current, but it's still sufficient enough for excellent cleaning performance. So you do have your cleaning tools right here. And now let's go ahead and flip this thing underneath. Oh, and there's the stair cleaning handle that you can hold right here, so you can clean your carpeted stairs. So now let's go ahead and flip this thing down to show you the brush roll. This one, being the lower end of the Elite series, it does have the single row brush roll. But another thing to point out is the bristles on this, the green bristles, are very soft. They're not as stiff compared to some of the higher end brush rolls that they would make for these at the time. Since this was meant to be a base model Hoover decided let's just give them soft bristle brush rolls so it doesn't really clean as good. So obviously this was so people can gravitate towards the higher end cleaners to get better cleaning performance, but luckily with these Elites, you can always just upgrade the brush roll, spend a good $20 for an upgraded brush roll, throw it in, and you pretty much have a good performing cleaner. So these green bristle brush rolls, although not the best in terms of cleaning performance, still manages to groom the carpet very good. Like I said, it doesn't really have that much agitation, but thanks to the airflow that these direct air motors in these produce, it surprisingly manages to agitate very well, even for a single row brush roll with not very stiff of bristles. So it definitely does good with with cleaning performance, and this will be good to use on delicate area rugs because it's not overly aggressive. You also do have a blank section right here on this brush roll to act as a beater bar. So it's just your typical base model brush roll with not very stiff bristles, typical of Hoover for lower end elite models of the time. And now let's go ahead and flip this thing on its back to show you the model number. This is Hoover Cleaner model U4264-930, 120 volts, 60 hertz, 7 amps. It's the Series B 7 amp. It's just a later revision motor. Bag type A, and your belt number is 38528-027. And the serial number on this is the 040000275096. To decode the year and month of manufacturing for these Elites or any Hoovers that are post 1988 or 87, the first and second digit will decode the month and the year of manufacture. Third and fourth digit will decode the year. So 04000 means this was manufactured in April of 2000. Yeah, if you want to know how new some of these Elite models are, they were made well into the early 2000s. For household use only, made in the USA. That is something you're not going to be seeing on today's Hoovers. A lot of them are now being made in China to cut costs. Add into the fact that Hoover, the Hoover company, is now owned by Tektronic Industries, based in Hong Kong, China. So, anyway, back here are your tools. You do have your upholstery tool, your crevice tool, dusting brush that, as you clearly saw, maybe just fell right off. And this one, what's really interesting to me is this is the extension wand tool rack that houses 2 wands. I'm not too sure whether or not it is original to this model. I want to say no, because a lot of these style soft and light cleaners usually come with the wand that has a single wand instead of these dual wands. So I'm guessing the original owner probably took this off another Elite cleaner that had the 2 wands set up, which obviously would not be correct to this model, but at least that's nice that it has the 2 extra wands. So you can get a much higher reach out of it. So I'm not complaining there. So anyway, and also back here you do have your power switch on the side, typical Elite fare where it's mounted back here on the side and it's a little plastic rod that runs down into where an actual rocker switch is in the valley of the motor. So what Hoover actually calls this is a safety switch, which basically ensures that the owner doesn't get shocked should something in the main rocker switch go out. So I do find that nice. I'm not too sure if that was Hoover's intention or if they did this just to make it easier to service. But yeah, with this kind of switch design, you don't really get electrocuted as much. And typical low-end Elite fare, you do have a hose that connects on either side and wraps around the front. So a lot of these clean Elite collectors refer to these as the wraparound hose, which is pretty self-explanatory. So now let's go ahead and release the power cord, which unfortunately, since this is a base model one, it doesn't have the longest of cord, which is only about like 24 feet. So it's not the longest, but it gets the job done. So let's go ahead and plug this guy in. And we'll go ahead and turn this thing on and demo it for you guys running. And typical Elite fashion, these things are very loud when they're running, so headphone users or those with sensitive hearing, I would advise turning down your volume for this portion of the video. So, here we go. And for a bristle on the brush roll that doesn't have the stiffest of bristles, this thing is mostly relying on airflow to get the best cleaning performance, but because this has a direct air motor and produces very high and sufficient airflow, this surprisingly manages to agitate and clean the carpet very well. Of course, not as good compared to some of its higher end brush rolls with stiffer bristles, but still pretty good. But before we end the video, we'll go ahead and demonstrate this thing in tool mode. So simply just lift that door up and stick the hose down in like so. Pull off the other side. Because this is direct air, I wouldn't expect miracle suction power from this thing, because the suction on these are usually pretty abysmal. But from my experience with these wraparound hose models, because the hose is so wide compared to even the side mount models, plastic or flex hose, they manage to have pretty decent tool suction, but still not as good compared to today's standards. Let's go ahead and reattach everything. And there you go. Well, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this video on the Hoover Soft and Light Supreme. Be sure and stay tuned, and don't forget to like, rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.